Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode 262, The Power of Integrity in Manifesting Miracles. I'm Jim Kellner, comedy hypnotist. Victoria Gallagher, she is the #1 best-selling author of The Practical Law of Attraction, Ultimate Weight Loss Power, How to Manifest Your Soulmate, and the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud Apps, the premier online destination for hypnosis recordings. With over 500 recordings to choose from, HypnoCloud provides solutions for people from all walks of life. Guided meditations, affirmations, and hypnotherapy to help with the law of attraction, manifestation, business success, stress, anxiety, sleep issues, and more. So be sure to download it today from the app stores. The goal of this show is to inspire you to dream big and live your best life. Each week, we discuss how to use manifesting, affirmations, meditation, and hypnosis to help people create the life of their dreams. So if you're ready to start manifesting your best life, join us and let us help you to tap into the power of your mind. Hello, Victoria.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
Well, thanks. How are you today?
I'm doing splendid.
Splendid. What a great word.
Yes, I love that word. That's actually I never use that word,
Hmm.
but yeah, it just came out today.
I'm going to start using it more.
Yeah. My husband's on a fascinating kick.
Hmm.
Do you ever
Gotcha.
just have like one of those words that just kind of like it's like almost like you just learned it again for the first time? It's like, oh, I gotta
Yep.
use this more often.
Good thing. Yeah, exactly. Instead of just awesome all the time, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Right. So today we're talking about integrity in manifesting miracles. So, how would Victoria define integrity?
So I define it, and this isn't even really my own definition. A number of years back, I went um through the whole like landmark
Hmm.
trainings, and the way, and I really liked their, and it just always aligned, like this is the way I always thought of it, but I just didn't really
Hmm.
have the words. And it's
Yeah.
about being whole and complete. So if you really think about like what that means, I mean, it's like anything that's, working just efficiently and beautifully and
Hmm.
perfectly. Your car can have integrity or not. Your furniture can have integrity. Your house can have your things that are working in your house can have integrity. And so I believe you yourself can have integrity. Your health can have integrity,
Hmm.
or not. But your word is essentially what I'm talking about. Your word with yourself, and keeping your word and being whole and complete with your word, keeping your promises, your
Hmm.
commitments to yourself, and not just to yourself, but with other people, which is essentially all the same thing. Keeping your word with other people. You've given your word to them, but it's your word, so you're also keeping it with yourself at the same time as you're keeping it with other people. So that's essentially how I like to think of it. That's how I like to define it. And it's just things that are, whole and complete.
So, let's explore then how integrity in keeping our word can, it's got to be helping to strengthen our manifestation abilities, right? I mean, how does this work, and what are some examples of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to manifesting things, when you really think about it, I mean, everything is possible. Like everything that you can possibly dream about doing. I mean, if obviously like within the scope of the the boundaries of the universe. I
The
mean,
laws of physics, yep.
the laws of physics. Okay,
Right.
we're not going to necessarily be able to fly or uh
That's just your
um
limited thinking.
Right. Hey, you know what? It may be. It very well may be. But let's just even bring it down to, if somebody else can do it,
Yeah.
then
Right. Right.
you can do it.
Sure.
But how does that actually work? How is it possible? Because everything is possible. How it's possible is that if you want to get from point A to point B, you make a plan. You tell yourself, I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to do this. Now, when you say, I'm going to do that, and you have a lack of integrity with the very instrument that is speaking that then it becomes less impactful, it becomes less effective. Or just conversely, if every time you said, I'm going to get up at 5, I'm going to do my daily workout, I'm going to journal, and I'm going to do my meditation, every single thing you say you're going to do, you actually do, then those bigger things that you're going for will actually happen, because you've built self-confidence in yourself, because you've built belief in yourself, because you set these goals, and all of these goals can be broken down into the daily action steps that are going to be required for you to ultimately achieve them. Every single thing, it could be broken down into you ultimately taking action, you
That's my
know?
action sheet right there. I checked the things off.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
printed one out after our conversation a couple episodes ago.
Yep.
Reminded me of my sheet that I used to carry around with me, and it has all my goals broken down.
Yeah.
It
Every
works.
single thing, it absolutely works, but you have to have integrity to do it. If you say, you know what, I'm going to write a book.
Mhm.
If so many people out there I know want to write a book. I
Yep.
know many of you out there. I know many of you personally. You want to write a book. How do you write a book? You write a word at a time.
Yep. Right.
And these days, you don't even have to do that much,
Right. You just go to Chat GPT, write me a book.
right? But you still, you've got to be the one to take the action, to copy and paste it onto
Right.
to the Word document.
Run it through the other one so that it'll check to make sure it doesn't look too much like AI and yeah, all that stuff. So yeah.
All of that stuff, exactly. And so it's the action steps of taking a big goal ultimately and breaking it down into all of the little actions that you need to take. And so ultimately it's gonna it's keeping your word with yourself is the key to manifesting anything.
When I was that guy, you talked about getting up at 5 a.m. I was this guy that kept telling myself, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. I'm going to eat perfectly and all these things. And finally, one day, I distinctly remember it saying I was going to do something. And I was like, BS, you're not going to do it. You never do what you say you're going to do.
There you go.
And when I started breaking it down, like you're talking about 15 years ago, I made myself up a worksheet,
Hmm.
and I broke it down. What do I have to do every day to reach that bigger goal? And when I start doing little things, they add up, and pretty soon you start to have confidence in yourself, and you go, "Hell yeah, I can do anything I want."
So true.
It's a great
And
feeling.
that is the power of having integrity. Are you going to some days, are you going to have perfect integrity? No, no one does. No
Right?
one does.
Yeah.
But it's like how you predominantly consistently behave is ultimately going to dictate your results. To me also, it goes beyond the word of just keeping the agreements, what you're gonna do and say to yourself. I think in the four agreements too, it goes a little bit, for those of you who have never read the book The Four Agreements, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. It's like one of those books you gotta read once a year. It's like a
Mm.
Bible of your word. And so those of you who've never read it, go get it right now. Because, it's not just keeping your word to yourself, but and keeping your word with other people, but it's also just strengthening again the power of the word, and the power of the word in, the quality of the words that you say. Are you judging people? Are you judging yourself? Are you out there just just constantly thinking that you're better than other people, or somebody's better than you? Like, so using the word against yourself or using the word against your other people, is definitely another way. So what is the quality of your conversation and your internal dialogue like? Are you always beating yourself up? Are you making assumptions about things? That's just another thing. Most of us are living our lives based on assumptions that we've made about what's true and or not. And these assumptions are like our limiting beliefs. And, so that's just another thing that can also taint the power of our word. So it goes deep. It really it goes so deep, and it's so important. And it's kind of like in our last episode when we're talking about the whole forgiveness thing. How are you speaking to other people? What do what are the conversations you're having like in your mind? And I started really thinking about that, and it's like, God, it's like I'm weakening the power of my word to actually accomplish my goal. Anytime I have one negative thought about this whole thing, it's like, so what can you do? What can you do? You can just turn that around, and you can always repair this integrity, just like you can repair a tire that gets a hole in it. If you've got a little hole in your word, you can repair it.
Well, what are some practical tips that we can use to maintain integrity in keeping our word?
That's a really, really good question, and I have a really good answer.
Oh, good.
So I think it really starts with really assessing your own understanding how important it is like number one. But once you understand how important it is, you're going to be more careful and more realistic about what you're saying. Like really think about what you're saying. When you tell people, yes, I'm going to be there at such and such time, are you really are you committed to that? Or, are you making promises that you can't keep? So you really want to set realistic goals and expectations. When you say to yourself at the end of the day that you're going to get up at 5, are you going to get up at 5? When you set honestly, when you set the alarm for 5 a.m. and you push the snooze alarm, that's kind of like a little white lie that you're telling
True.
yourself. You're
Yeah.
saying, I'm going to get up at 5, but then
Yeah.
you really don't get up at 5.
Yeah.
Um, so, are you really going to, when you say to yourself, I'm going to go to the gym, are you really going to go to the gym? And so you want to really start to look at your promises, your commitments. Are you keeping these things? Really just get in the practice of reflecting on how much you're keeping your word, how much you're breaking your word. And the other thing too, and this is so crucial because this is part of it, because this is going to come up. This is going to sneak into your life when you start to notice that it's important for you to keep your word. You're going to notice that you you're not always as honest with people as you think that you are. And so you have to really take a look at your communication with other people and let them know like the truth, because it's the truth that'll set everybody free. When you,
True.
for example, if you're telling people, yeah, I'm going to be there at 7, but you don't really want to go there. And you're
Yeah.
just telling them that to make them feel good in the moment. And you're going to conjure up some way later on to say, oh, yeah, I couldn't make it because of that. Okay. Subconscious mind is listening to that conversation. I'm not trying to judge. I'm not trying to tell you you're doing it wrong. I'm just trying to say that if you're telling other people that you're going to do something, then you need to be honest, you need to be honest and open. And that ultimately is going to build your integrity. And it's like not getting involved in things that you don't really want to do. If you don't really want to do something, you shouldn't be don't be a people pleaser. Don't tell people things just because you think that that's what they want to hear. You're out of integrity, right? You're kind of lying.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into this in making realistic promises. I mean, I think some of us are just being optimistic, but
Yeah.
but in making those promises and commitments, how can we ensure that we're doing it with with integrity?
Yeah. And, you bring up a really good point when you say, being optimistic. I agree with that. I think that sometimes maybe it could be that you're being optimistic about what is actually possible. And that's where the self assessment really kind of comes into play.
Mm.
Because if you keep breaking your agreements, then you realize, you might have to take a look and take a step back. Am I overcommitting myself to things? Even if you want to be optimistic, every time you write things down and you don't actually accomplish them, it chips away at that belief that
And you
like
feel bad.
and you feel bad and all of that. So I think one of the things that we can do to really help us to improve in that is to prioritize really like what's important to you. What's like the top thing that you want to accomplish in your life, in your day, in your month, whatever it is, like what's really important to you. Know what's important, and then set your boundaries. With people, like know what you will do, know what you won't do, and that way you're not even necessarily tempted to step into territory that you're not it's like you're wasting everybody's time with. You're ultimately saying you're going to do something, but you're not really into it. You're not really wanting to do it. And so just know what your limits are, know what your truth is, and act that way. Just be truthful with yourself, with other people, and set those boundaries so that you're not, you know, overcommitting yourself.
So, and I have to admit that I'm better at boundaries than I used to be, but it's still something I'm working on. Can you give
Yeah.
us some examples, maybe of setting of setting examples and how this helps to maintain our integrity?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one thing, one of the most powerful words that you could ever get to know when it comes to integrity is it's a two-letter word, the word no,
But I'll feel guilty.
right? Right? When you say no to the things that, you don't really want to do, it just opens you up to have space to say yes to the
Mm,
things
right.
that are really meant for you, that are really there for you. So,
Yeah.
that no is like the best boundary in the world. I mean, if you don't really want to do something, just say no.
Right.
And no, understand this, no is a complete and perfect sentence all by itself. It no period is a sentence. It doesn't require any explanation. It
Yeah.
doesn't require any justification. you can say no because you're not feeling it, because it's not something that you can do or you can probably can do it, but you're not willing to.
Yeah.
And you don't want to. It's not gonna and it's not selfish. It's not selfish. I think a lot of people, they feel the obligation, to say yes to things. But when you're feeling obligated, you're walking into that situation kind of resenting it. Um, and of course that's bringing down your vibe. And, when you say no to other things, and even like distractions, I mean, you might have to say no to things in your own life that you really want, that you want to
Sure.
do. But
Yeah.
those things, saying no to chocolate, you know, saying no to staying in bed all day, say you could, so you're gonna have to say no to yourself sometimes to stay in integrity and to be able to say yes to the things that you're manifesting. And, because ultimately that's what it really comes down to is, you know, you manifesting a happy life, manifesting those happy, positive, good feelings. And if you're constantly saying yes to things that aren't really making you feel good about yourself or aren't making you feel happy, then there's less opportunities to say yes to taking care of yourself, taking care of your personal needs, taking care of your personal growth, saying yes to expanding your self-awareness and growing and becoming all that we can be. So those are just a few ideas that I have for maintaining your boundaries. I mean, it's really all about saying no. Just say no.
Well, in order, like you said earlier, talk about writing a book. In order to write a book, you're going to have to say no to, maybe it's Netflix, or maybe it's those extra, that overtime at work, or that extra client, those kind of things. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If you want to get,
Hmm.
it depends on where you want to go.
Yeah.
Could we look at the role, because that does take a lot of self awareness, I think. Can
Hmm.
we take a look at how that maybe helps us to maintain integrity, and how can we effectively practice self awareness, and maybe what should we focus on?
Well, I think when it comes to self-awareness, it's really about, I think a lot of it kind of comes down to, how do we feel?
Mhm.
How do the words that are coming out of my mouth make me feel? And really understanding, like, am I do I feel like, is are the words that are coming out of my mouth um congruent with who I am and what I'm about and what I'm going for? Am I saying, things just to get a response, or just to not get a certain response?
Yeah.
Or am I saying things, that are true to that are feeding my soul? And so I think we have to be consistent in always just kind of being willing to really take a look at the congruency of, are you shaking your head no while you're saying yes? And but it's really all about that alignment. And are the things that we're saying, are they in alignment with our goals and our dreams and our desires? And and just taking the time each day just to reflect and really go inside and ask yourself, am I keeping my am I keeping my word to myself? What am I doing to create the situation that I'm in? And then another way to really grow your self-awareness is just by, journaling, getting a coach, tracking your progress, creating accountability for the things that you say. I think that's just accountability kind of keeps, sometimes it's just easier for us to get um other people to look at us than it is for us to look at ourselves, or even just having somebody that we have to report to and say, "Hey, I did this." Um, that's just another way to help to maintain that integrity. Yesterday, so I've been going to Hotworks, and at Hotworks, it's a hot sauna room with infrared light in there, and they have all these different saunas that you can go into to do your exercise, and one of them is hot yoga that I've been doing. And all the while that I've been going there, I've had they have a room for up to 3 spaces in there. And all the while that I've been going in there, I've only signed up when there's just been me in the room. But yesterday there was another person in the room with me. And guess what? I went a little further in my yoga because there was just another person in there
Gotcha.
that, it's not even like a competition. It's just like sort of keeping yourself accountable and honest, like, because that was one of the things I noticed when I first like signed up for it. I was like, there's no one else in here with me. It's like, what if I just decided to just goof around?
Yeah.
And you could do that. But so having another person creates that accountability.
Yeah.
And so, find somebody to help you with this, I say.
Nice. So I know you're a big fan of the journaling meditation. Could we talk about the importance of open and honest communication in maintaining integrity?
Yeah,
I want to make sure I want to make sure I'm communicating effectively with other people.
absolutely. Well, I think one of the things to help keep us in integrity is to make sure that we are actively listening, and we're actively listening with empathy.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is like not just listening to people, um, nodding your head and just in agreement, and pretending that you understand, but to really participate in the conversation, to really um, uh, get involved in the conversation, to get clarity. If you don't understand what the person is saying, you're not sure if you've heard them. I mean, have you ever been in a situation where
Yeah.
you're just like, oh yeah, uh-huh. You didn't even hear a word they said, or you didn't understand what they said. You just said, yeah, uh-huh.
Right.
And to me, that's kind of lacking integrity in the communication between you and that person, because you're pretending that you heard them and you understood what they said. So I think that that's definitely one place that we can have more integrity when it comes to our relationships is, hey, I mean, this whole development thing that I was going through, if I had had a little bit more integrity with myself about making sure that I was 100% clear on the things that were a priority to me, I probably wouldn't be in the situation that I would be in. So just
Yeah.
getting clarity, from people and being transparent about what your intentions are, what your expectations are. How many times have you gotten into a relationship with somebody and you expect one thing, they expect another thing, but people just weren't upfront about what they expected out of that relationship. And then a year later, it's like, oh, you expect me to do the dishes? Oh, you expect me to take out the trash? Oh, you expect me to cook? Oh, and whatever it is, if you're not being transparent about what your intentions are, what your expectations are, this is just going to be something that ultimately is going to lead to conflicts, misunderstandings, all of that stuff. And so again, here we are with the integrity, like being all in on your communication with people and being an active participant in whatever it is that you're communicating, even though it's hard, even though sometimes it's like uncomfortable, you know, just getting everything out in the open and airing it out and being um transparent about how you're feeling and what you're thinking, and all of that is going to ultimately lead everybody into a better, happier place. And it's ultimately going to, get you closer to your dreams and your goals, because you're going to be spending time talking about things, doing things, and being with people that are of like mind, and helping you to get to ultimately where you want to be in your life. So it's so important.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all those excellent strategies. I look forward to next week.
Yes, me too. So thank you for tuning in to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and hope you found it informative. Please share this podcast with your friends, family, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Tune in next week for another inspiring episode. And until then, keep using the power of your mind to reach your goals and live your best life of abundance and joy.